Hello and welcome to the last without having kicked a ball of the season, and tonight also marks my last show. And so joining me tonight we've got Mr. Ben Carney.
Hello, Will. I know I'm not around for the show very often anymore due to other commitments, but it's nice to share the last one with you.
Likewise. Like Luke Shaw, you're back for the final bits of the season, but unlike Luke Shaw, there'll be no mistakes from you.
Don't speak too soon. We'll see. We'll see.
Very true. And we also have Mr. Jello Wheels.
Hello.
And we also have the football poet, Mr. Sam Taylor.
Hello, everyone. Hiya, Will. Let's crack on, shall we?
Yes. So today is sort of weird limbo of the show, I suppose you could describe it. It's basically some of the big talking points from across the last couple of weeks in the football world. And to start with, it's the National League playoff final, and as this is sort of an EFL game, I'll pass this over to GLO Wheels.
Thank fuck for that. Right, let's crack on. In the National League playoff final, it was Oldham Athletic who secured a return to League Two after I think it's 3 years away. Quite the chaotic game, and I'll take you through it before I talk about why there was so much chaos. It actually kicked off with Southend taking the lead thanks to an own goal by central defender Emmanuel Month, or Manny Month as he's called. Then a name that might ring some bells for you EFL fans. Joe Garner equalised for Oldham in the 48th minute with a penalty.
Was it the old Preston strike?
Exactly what I was going to say. He got that goal of the season winner where he anked it on the volley from like 35 yards, kind of Jamie Vardy versus Liverpool esque.
Yeah.
Then we shall dive into what was said chaos, as the rest of the goals in this game all came in extra time. Southend retook the lead thanks to Chambers' Perillion in the 91st minute, before 2 goals in 2 minutes sealed Oldham's promotion. James Norwood, a name that should ring a bell once again due to his exploits in League One and League Two over the years. I'm thinking specifically when he led the line for Tranmere when they came back up from the National League. And also a name that you may or may not know, Cian Harrett. He came onto the scene with Huddersfield a few years ago and then has slowly dropped off. But yeah, so there you go. The 2 goals in 2 minutes come in the 110th and 112th. Oldham back in the EFL. I'll let the boys discuss this before I give my opinions.
Yeah, I think Oldham and Southend are two really EFL clubs that could both say they should be at least in League Two. Well, obviously on stature, but obviously football doesn't work like that in our pyramid, which is why we love it. Smaller teams go into the top and bigger teams near the bottom. But a crazy game. Reminded me a little bit, shades of United's Europa League match against, when we played Lille. It reminded me of that a bit with all the extra time and the goals. But yeah, it seems like a very frantic game. I saw a couple of the highlights, and it just, those games can either be very cagey or both teams can go for it, and that seems to be what happened. Pleased for Oldham being a Northwest team, being back in the Football League. It's a big club to be at that level. So good on them. Southend will be disappointed, but yeah, I'll have to go again next season. My grandpa's friend, my dad's dad's friend became the manager of Oldham once upon a time, and they were at Stalybridge Celtic, and my grandpa was asked to be an assistant coach for Oldham, but ended up opening his shop instead. So there's my little thing with Oldham.
Wow.
A nice bit of trivia
Yeah.
there, Sam.
Yeah.
I sort of echo what you said. I mean, in terms of the game, chaotic ending and games like that, they're the best games to win. I mean, and they're also heartbreaking to lose. But for Oldham and the fans, it's a memory that'll last forever. I mean, now they're back in the football. In the football league, it'd be interesting to see their recruitment and what's that like, because a club like that should be higher up, we all know, but it'd be interesting to see whether they become a yo-yo team or they can cement the status.
Yeah, just one point on that, Ben. I think they finished something like 25 points behind the other automatic promoted side in Barnet, Oldham. And the Oldham manager was quite open and refreshing, saying that there should be three teams that go into the EFL and three teams out. So I just wondered what down from the EFL. And I just wondered what your thoughts were on that. Anyone?
Yeah, well, every season when the playoffs arise, this talk happens whether or not it should be allowed, like say seventh beats third or something like that. But for me, that's what makes the magic of the playoffs. Like I can see the argument for it to be scrapped, but the playoffs is an occasion that is always on the footballing calendar.
Yeah, I agree. George, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the first thing to say would be that a great. I'll make my point in a minute, but a great sort of a great point made within what I'm about to say is look at Barnet, who haven't been in the EFL for 8 years. Look at Oldham, who have been down for 3 years, and they're a big team. And my point is that like non-league is a little bit of a black hole for clubs, and you know, in seasons before, you know, you started coming to games. I remember many a season where we've looked at that, we being the Alex, and it's not something that I would want to do to another club, to put, let's say, one more going down. I think two teams down and two teams up is pretty fair enough, because I think you'll find again, and a good case in point is like Morecambe, who are, I dread to think what their summer's going to be like, because it's an absolute whirlwind at that club at the moment. And on the flip side, I think you look at somebody like Carlisle, who have kept Mark Hughes, who's done an okay job, and just signed one of the top goal scorers in the National League to their ranks for the National League season. And you can be a bit, but obviously they've got rich owners and just been taken over, so or not long been taken over. So I don't know. I find it a bit difficult, because for me, I'd keep things as they are, just because for every good story there is, i.e., a Luton, there's so many sort of Scunthorpes, or like Southend, for instance, or
Yeovil.
Yeovil is a good another good example. So
Dagenham and Redbridge.
yeah, Dagenham, they got relegated from the National League as well, and they turned us over in the bloody FA Cup, didn't they?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we did.
So yeah, that's my opinion on the game as a whole. Um, I think obviously congratulations to Oldham. They're a huge club, as we've already said. And with a manager, by the way, that's been here and done it before with many different clubs in Nicky Mellon. Looking at the team sheets as well, I was amazed how many sort of ex EFL guys who are pretty recognisable were in the team. I.e., guys like Manny Month, like I said, the captain's Charlie Raglan, formerly of Cheltenham, Tom Pett, who played at Cheltenham as well. Then you've got Joe Garner, obviously played at Preston and Carlisle, and a very good striker in his time. Uh, James Norwood, who obviously came off the bench and scored. Jordan Rossiter, who's supposed to be the next big thing a few years ago at Liverpool. So there's a lot of experience within that team. Now, I think some of those are loanees. So again, like Ben sort of said, it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Um, then again, to be fair, there's a few names there that you might know in the Southend team. Biggest one being probably Macaulay Bonne, who obviously played at QPR and Charlton. But yeah, that's pretty much an EFL ready-made squad for me when I look at that and I read some of those names. They've had a new owner over the last couple of years. Very salt of the earth guy, local guy. Um, there was the thing that's being shared virally is that Rob McElhenney sent them a message, or it might have been I think it was Rob McElhenney sent a message and said, congratulations to Oldham, and he was like, I thought he was just a local guy. I didn't even know he was an actor. I've not seen any of his films.
Well,
Which I like, and I know he's got quite a good relationship with the Dorking Wanderers manager slash owner slash whatever, and anybody that gets along with that fella is going to be a pretty decent character to have in the EFL as an owner. Again, one word on Southend. I mean, they've had a very, very bad few years. It was talked about earlier on in the season that they might be expelled from the National League due to financial stuff. So to get to where they have been and taken the lead, um, taken the lead at Wembley and then not seen it through will break hearts. But um, yeah, I think it completes a very interesting League Two this season, which I already sort of said to Will when we did the show a few weeks ago that I was very, very interested in the strength of both League One, League Two, and the Championship, because I think there's incredibly strong teams for those levels going into both as the winners of the league below. Do you know what I mean? So, um, very interesting indeed. Yeah.
Do do both Barnet and sorry, not Stockport. Do both Barnet and Oldham survive in your opinion?
Yeah, definitely.
What do you think, Ben?
There is a lot of. I'll just say my piece just very quickly. There's a lot, and I mean a lot of excitement about Barnet in League Two next season.
yeah, I agree with you, George. I think even even for the promoted sides in the lower leagues and even in football in general, obviously the gap to the Premier League is still quite big, but the gap in every other league is shrinking. Anyone can beat anyone in football, and that's why we like it.
Yeah, that's one of the interesting things, and I think just to pick up again, I think me and Will had a bit of a conversation about that the other day about. In fact, I think it might have been with you as well, Ben, when we spoke last week, and we were talking about how this season feels a little bit like the end of an era because there's big teams and strong teams moving around all over world football, and it just feels a little bit like, maybe it won't be sort of Man City winning the Premier League every year, for instance, and teams that we haven't seen for a while that have been in, let's say, a non-league or a League Two or a League One might get the chance to get into the Championship or League One or League Two, for instance. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. putting it simply, the changing of the guard pretty much. But I think we covered that well there. Where do you want to go next, Will? I personally think the Champions League.
Champions League final, yeah, that's what I was thinking. So,
Yeah.
are you sure, just before we move on, that there's nothing more you want to say about the Oldham game?
No, I would think we've.
Yeah,
Quickly, you've been to that stadium, haven't you, George? The
Yeah, I
Oldham
have. I've been to Boundary Park, yeah.
highly rated, should be on the to go and visit football grounds or not?
I thought it was a fucking shithole.
I admire your honesty.
I
So,
tell you what.
I met Andy Tate there though. So there you
Oh,
go.
really? Next season we're doing a title charge.
Yeah, give it Giggsy to the end of the. Well, maybe not nowadays.
Yeah. But
He's cancelled, isn't he?
yeah.
right.
But just bringing up the Champions League football, because it was a big skeptical of a game. Will,
Yes.
do you want to start with your thoughts, or are you happy for one of us to go?
I think you go first, yeah.
Look, he's checking it out.
Yeah. So, me personally, I expected PSG to win. I did. I think they were the team to beat throughout the competition. I think nobody would have expected 5-0 because in some ways the game was a really interesting spectacle because you got one team who are pure football, all out attack, chance creation monsters, and then you've got a team who are well drilled, know their jobs to the finest of details. So on paper it was a really good spectacle, but PSG just were a level above, and in some ways it was men against boys. It was the most one-sided final I've ever seen. And I can't remember who it was. I think Rio Ferdinand made a point, and I don't tend to agree with what he said, but I agreed with this one, and it was a victory for football because the way the PSG team is set up, you've got superstars like Kvaratskhelia, running back at 4-0, and as I said, it was just pure football, and for me, that's how football should be played. None of this Pep Guardiola robotic football. I know he's one of the greatest managers. There's no dispute, but I still find it robotic. And Enrique, I find really, really entertaining. And the last thing from me, I know you saw this, George, because I saw on your social media.
I watched it as well. It was a lovely moment.
But the tifo for Enrique's daughter, I just thought that's what football's all about. It's about connection. It's about memories, and that is why I wanted PSG to win the Champions League.
Yeah, I mean, you guys know me well enough to know that I don't tend to put barely anything on social media. So you might have seen that I'd posted a story and thought, oh, what's this? But yeah, I was scrolling through TikTok and I obviously, had seen this moment because I tend to watch games and turn it off when we get past the kind of to the punditry moments. But
Oh my god, you would drive me mad. You would.
there aren't very many things in football that have moved me to pure emotion and tears. And that did. I think that it was things that I was seeing on TikTok afterwards as well, which was like, obviously, when Barcelona won the Champions League, he's on the pitch with Zana, who's obviously his daughter that passed away, waving the flag, and then to see him do it again, I was, it's just probably the most emotional I've been in quite a while about anything. So yeah, you're quite right, and it's funny. I was listening to earlier on today. I was listening to there was a Stick to Football episode where they interviewed Gary Neville about his career, and he was talking about his time at Valencia, and he was talking about mentality, and he said, he played Luis Enrique, and he got beat by Luis Enrique, and Luis Enrique completely blanked him, didn't shake his hand. And he said that he didn't feel like it was necessarily a sign of a disrespect, more a sign of like, go home, little boy, which is his exact words, is exactly what Gary Neville said. He felt like it wasn't
Right.
necessarily being disrespectful, more just sort of telling him, like, you don't belong here. And then Gary Neville said, that's why I think that Luis Enrique will take PSG over the line. And I just thought, of all the days to listen to that, it's a few days after the Champions League final, and he has done it.
Wow, that is
And
amazing.
they've had some unreal managers over the years, and I think, do you know what I actually think? To Ben's point, I think what's changed with PSG over the last few
They're
years
not
is,
relying on superstars, are
well,
they?
they are, but they're not relying on just one. There's no Mbappe, there's no Neymar, there's no Messi.
No Cavani, no Ibrahimovic, yeah.
Because I think about like what was great about PSG, those PSG teams that we remember when they very first got all the money, is like you said, Cavani, Marquinhos, Thiago Silva, Ibrahimovic, Matuidi. It's an unreal team,
Yeah,
but there's
yeah.
also some names in there. One in particular that was definitely too big for the team, i.e., Ibrahimovic has got the ego to save the universe.
Oh, well, yes, yes. Zlatan is
And then
Zlatan.
and then I think that like the reason that the Galacticos works for Real Madrid is because you've got the best players in the world playing at the best club. So there's no situation where any of those players, no matter who you are, if you're Cristiano Ronaldo or you're fucking Chris Long at Crew Alex, none of you, nobody, absolutely nobody is ever going to be bigger than Real Madrid.
Yes.
Some of them like to think they are, i.e., Ronaldo. But let's face it, look at Ronaldo's career post Madrid. Yeah, not great. Anyway, yeah, and I think that the kind of the change to bring in, all right, okay, yeah, they've still brought in Kvaratskhelia, who is an unreal player, by the way. Um, and I think that it has catapulted PSG into the respect that they deserve, and I think it's come from an more of a focus on the team rather than one or two
Than
big
individual
players.
superstars, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of emphasis on the team. You're right there, Joe. I just can't believe I forgot to mention Dewey.
Yeah,
19 years,
what a player Desiree Doué is. Yeah,
19 years of age and ripping up a final like that.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
I absolutely agree. Uh, and yeah, you're absolutely right. I just saw, from my own perspective, a team. Well, a team again. I disagree with what Jordan said, which doesn't happen very often, and agree with what Will says, which doesn't happen very often. That I think PSG were a group of individuals, great individuals, that didn't play together as a team back in the day.
Yeah.
that
Now
is
they
what I
won.
said. That is
No,
what I said.
no, you said they had great individuals and were a good team, but no, you said they did have all superstars, but maybe not all of them were on
Yeah,
it.
I never said they were a good team. I said they had good players. I didn't say they were a good team. because
Well,
they're a good team in France, but a good team in France is.
yeah,
We could put up a good team in France.
yeah,
But that's it. That. Just to sorry to absolutely railroad you. That's what this Champions League means, right? It gives France some credibility.
yeah. No, and you're right. But going back to what I was
What
saying,
I was saying, let me just clarify exactly what I was saying, which was they had a good team, but it was built on two or three star players, and that's what stopped them from being
yeah,
this team.
You
That's
could
what I
throw
meant to
all the
say.
big
yeah.
superstars together, but they don't necessarily gel.
Did you not see the bit where I said what's good about the Galacticos is nobody's bigger than the club? Did you miss? Did you miss that bit?
No, no, I didn't miss that bit. I just thought that you were implying that the team that they had a good team in the day, and actually they didn't have a good team. They had good individuals that did not gel whatsoever at the highest level as a team. And I think what they have now is superstars that players that are now superstars because of what they've done, and
And
top
because they've
players,
earned it, yeah.
but they knew how to function as a team. PSG in the past, for me, have been very flaky. They've sort of relied on moments and a bit. They've sort of been a bit like Spurs, where they on a slightly different level, where they've relied on one or two players and never really got. I never watched PSG. They were a little bit as well like Belgium of the club world, where they had great players, but it never quite gelled. And what I've seen throughout this Champions League campaign, and in general when I watch PSG, is a team. And what's great about the top teams is you can have stars, and I think the way that it just comes back. You can spend all the money in the world, but that doesn't guarantee you success. And they've still got some brilliant players that they did spend money on. But they've brought in young players, hungry players, players from the academy as well. And it's paid off for them. So I see a team that was willing to do the running off the ball. They never stopped. I mean, Dembele, every time every time Jan Sommer got the ball, was like a sprinter waiting to run out the blocks. He was almost on his knees, like ready to go. And then he started the whole press. And he is what you would call one of the superstars that's been there for a little while. And he was running around, and the whole team was, and they had energy, commitment, passion, quality as well. But you can't win anything without that desire. And those players, the young players, were young, hungry. Were not, like Jordan said about you never bigger than the club. They didn't strike me as a group of players that, oh, look at us, we're bigwigs, because a lot of them weren't. But they were willing to work. They wanted to be there. And I just thought they were absolutely terrific.
I,
Ben might remember, and he might not. I remember one of these finals, but I was lucky enough to watch Manchester United on TV in the 2009 final against Barcelona and the 2011 final against Barcelona. And both of them, that was when Barcelona, certainly in 2011, were in the heyday. And
Messi tore you to shreds that day. No,
2000, that. Yeah.
2009, they were coming into their heyday, and they were just unbelievable. We were a great team, a quality team, but they were on a different level. And I think that's what we saw in this final. And I kind of thought, oh my gosh, in both those finals, especially the 2011 one, what on earth is this that I'm watching? I'm seeing multiple winners get torn to absolute shreds, and Manu couldn't lay a glove on them, and it's a little bit like this. This Juventus team has been, sorry, not Juventus. This Inter Milan team is a brilliant team, but it looked like they couldn't get anywhere near them. I believe they are the oldest team in the tournament, and it certainly looked like they were against those young guns of PSG. And just finally, from me, I think it's great for football to have a new winner. I know it's controversial a little bit with PSG with the where the money's coming from and all that, but I think it's great for football to have a new winner. Um,
It's the year
I
of the
think
underdog, as Alan Shearer said.
I think a little bit as well. You look at Real Madrid and their behaviour in terms of not turning up to the best player in the world, the Ballon d'Or awards, because they thought that Vinicius Junior should win it. That just gives you a sense of entitlement. So I'm really glad they haven't won. I'm really glad PSG have, and it's a new team. And I think they thoroughly deserved it. And another thing, I don't know if you saw this when um, Rio, I think it was Rio, read out the ages of the PSG players, and their average age as a team is like 24. It
Wow.
is scary,
It's
scary.
it's a team for the past, present, and the future, as they said in commentary. Not the past, the present, and the future. Sorry.
Don't
Uh,
you? I'll tell you who I'm most pleased for, and that would be like Marquinhos, apart from Luis Enrique, you know, obviously, but somebody like Marquinhos, and this is one of the things I think, which is why we've seen over the past couple of seasons this kind of regeneration of PSG and this young team with the likes of Barcola and Doué, for instance, is I think that part of the problem with PSG is that some of the top players they had, the longer that they stayed there, the less respected they were, and the more their stars kind of faded. And I
yeah,
think the biggest example of, well, two good examples of that are Marco Verratti, who obviously isn't there anymore, plays in Qatar, but a criminally underrated midfielder always. And I think that comes from the fact that he moved to PSG instead of trying to forge a career in Italy. Uh, and then the other one is Marquinhos, who has been one of the best centre halves again of this generation, but I don't think would ever get in that conversation because of where he plays.
yeah, I agree.
But I think
Donnarumma as well. I think
PSG,
Right.
Donnarumma. Sorry, I think Donnarumma gets pushed down a lot because of where
he doesn't.
he.
He's recognised as one of the best goalies in the world.
I don't know. I don't see that to me.
But
I've. If you sat there and you said, if I said to you, who are the best goalkeepers in the world right now? Are you
I
going to
would have,
put Donnarumma in your top five?
yeah.
Ben?
Yeah, I'd put him up there. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, Will?
I would probably put. Well,
He probably doesn't know
I
who
mean,
Donnarumma is.
in terms of, are we talking all time? Or are we talking currently in the world?
Talking currently in the world.
Right. I guess Manuel Neuer.
No, no, I'm not asking you to list them. I'm asking you,
Oh,
does
sorry.
Gianluigi Donnarumma go into your top five goalkeepers in the world right now?
I haven't really seen much from him, so I can't really
uh,
comment.
I
And that is the point I was trying to make, is I
yeah,
don't think that enough football fans will have seen enough of him because of where he plays, or they will have had the chance to watch him on something like a TNT and then go, no, why would I watch the French league? It's the Farmers League, and not watched him.
I do know who he is, though. He used to play for
no,
AC Milan, didn't he?
yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
I completely get your point, George.
Right.
Because before Will made that point, I was about to say I can see where you're coming from, and then say that point. But I still think he's done enough in football still to be recognised. Because
I agree.
don't forget he's won competitions
Yeah,
internationally.
I
Ridiculously as well.
just to make it clear as well. By the way, he gets into my top five. In fact, in the world right now, he's probably within my top three. I'm just saying that the average football fan isn't probably not going to put him there.
For me, he's better than Edison. At the moment, I'd say the top two are Allison and Donnarumma.
No, I've never rated Allison. I think Allison is massively
He's won the
overrated.
Oh,
Premier
I don't
League.
know
He's
about
won the
that.
Champions League.
I think it's Allison, Courtois, and oh no, hang on. I think it's Courtois, Allison, Donnarumma for
I
me.
think it's Courtois, uh, Donnarumma, and Edison. And to be honest, Allison wouldn't even get in my top 10. That's controversial.
That's criminal.
My
That's
goodness, that's crazy.
That's
He's a good
crazy.
goalie. No, he's a good goalie. I just don't think he's anything special.
because I
I
think I
really
tell you
don't.
what, Edison. I think he's a great goalkeeper and one of the best, but
Right.
he has gone down in my
Yeah,
estimations a lot after this
he's
season.
Well, yeah, it's
he's
hard
got
because obviously City the
He's on
season
a
they've had.
he's in a different league to Allison, in my
No,
opinion.
I completely disagree.
Right,
yeah.
Vehemently, I vehemently disagree.
I
right.
would
I feel like
I would rather have Kelleher over Allison any day.
Listen.
Whoa.
Hey. I'll tell you how good Keller is. He's just signed for fucking Brentford. So,
No,
you know.
he's a great goalie. He's a great
Yeah,
goalie.
but
Chelsea.
if I'm not being funny, if he was that good, why isn't he going to a better club?
That's a very
Well,
valid question.
it
Because
is coming
because because
because
there are clubs higher up than Brentford in desperate need of goalkeepers,
like
your own
you.
club included,
Right.
and mine, both
Yeah,
need
but
better
your
goalkeepers.
club have already said they're not going to bring in another goalie, and they're going to stick
No,
with
but
very unsticky Sanchez.
yeah, but clubs go back on stuff all the time. So I'm saying there are clubs, even somebody
Right.
like Brighton could do
Ra-
with it.
Ramsdale is in a different league to Allison, in my opinion. I've never rated it. I'm not
No,
saying he's
no,
a bad
I don't
goalie
agree.
because you don't win things with a bad goalie. But I look at this man and I just see, yeah, he's all right. He's solid. He's all right, and he's obviously all
You
right because of what
Right,
disagree.
okay.
Liverpool have won.
If Edison is so good, why does Allison get picked ahead of him 3 out of 4 times for Brazil?
Why?
Yeah.
Because the Brazilian manager's obviously on something. So that's why. So
Right.
That's crap, and you know it because if let's say for instance, if they didn't feel like they needed the best shot stopper, they'd put Edison in goal because Edison's better with his feet than Allison is.
Edison's better all round, mate. Like there's
the
no,
thing
there's,
is,
Right.
the thing is how I sum it up is
What's next is fucking Onana in your top 10 as well.
no, he absolutely not. But I never said
Well,
that,
at
did
least
I?
they got some
But
common sense in there.
but 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 I would rather have Verbruggen at Brighton than Allison. But that's just my
No,
opinion.
Verbruggen's a great goalkeeper. I think he just doesn't get. I think he just needs a bit more time.
That's that
Don't forget, he's 21,
Ramsdale
22. He's the
Ramsdale
Netherlands
over
number one,
Allison.
and he's Brighton's number
Ramsdale
one.
Right.
Ramsdale's a better goalie than Allison,
Right.
but
I don't
that's my
disagree. I don't disagree. But Ramsdale's got 3 relegations on his CV, and I'm not. It's not all about that. It's not. But
I would
Right.
put Allison at a similar level to Kepper. There we go. That's
Oh,
currently
you're
my
that
so
is very
fucking full of
controversial.
shit. Oh my god. Right. Okay. Right.
Right.
I don't disagree that Kepa's had a good season this season. I absolutely will say, as a Chelsea fan, who likes Kepa but isn't that big of a fan of Kepa. Kepa's been really good for Bournemouth this season. But if you're going to put Kepa in the same bracket as
Yeah, because I don't
Allison, then
rate
why?
Allison.
This is very
Why?
controversial, Graham.
Because I don't
Why
rate
though?
him. Because I don't.
What?
Because I just think he's good. Because obviously Liverpool have won what they won, but he's average. He's average.
No,
No,
that's
no, I
bollocks because a
disagree.
bad.
He's
Listen, even in a good team, a bad goalkeeper gets exposed. Look at
yeah.
fucking Sanchez or Onana.
Yeah, I just think he's.
Right.
I just think.
No,
I
I'm
mean, he's got
sorry.
Van Dijk in front of
Right.
him. That's fine.
If
But
Yeah, but Sanchez had
Right.
fucking Thiago Silva last season.
yeah, but he was 42 years old or however
Right, before you
I'm
two get your
sorry.
boxing gloves and get in the ring.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I think that is like the worst. That's like Mark Goldbridge, Rory Jennings level shit. That what you just said.
Up the gold bridge.
Oh, he's a cunt. I'll say it again.
Oh, steady on now. Steady
I,
on.
I, I'm starting to like gold bridge.
Well,
Honest to God, why
Right.
anybody gives that fella a platform? I don't know. He's the biggest wanker on the planet.
Ben, what do you think of Mark Goldbridge?
I think he's
He's quite entertaining.
you could see it as that, but me personally, I think he's cancerous to United.
Completely agree.
I think he fuels agendas and he uses his platform to split the fan base.
I tell
Yes,
you something
Stop
else.
it.
I bet that fucker's
Stop.
not been within. Bet that fucker's not been within 10 miles of Old Trafford in his
he-
life.
he's actually a Forest fan. You
And
probably
he's from
know.
fucking Solihull.
Yeah,
Is he? He's
you
a
pro-
Right.
Forest fan, did you say?
yeah, you probably know that, but he is a Forest fan. Cause I tell you the story. He was doing a video about football. Did one on United. I know this is a bit of a tangent, but he did one on United, and so United got the best views, and then he ran with it.
Is he? I thought he was a proper United fan. Well, that might change it then. But
He's a
Right.
tosser, mate.
And his name's actually Brent.
Bruno. Oh, is it Brent? Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, Brent de Cesar or something like
yeah,
that.
something like that.
That
Yeah,
incredibly English name.
yeah.
so
Sorry to sound like Reform UK.
why does he call himself Mark Goldbridge?
Cause it's like an alter ego kind of thing. But anyway, well, we've gone off on a tangent. So
Yes.
do you want to stay? Do you want to steer the ship back to the next game?
I will. Yeah. So, well, where do we want to go next then?
Well, you could talk about the championship playoff final or something like that.
I mean, okay then, let's do that. Let's kind of round up some promotions and some
Okay.
relegations.
Well,
And
I think do you know, given that's your speciality, I think we'll hand over to you, Mr. Joe Wheels.
yeah,
No, he couldn't
okay.
wait. He couldn't wait.
Yeah, he was desperate, wasn't he?
No, no, no,
Uh,
no. It's just the championship is his speciality. That's his role. So
Yeah,
make
but
sure.
you're right. Yeah,
Considering,
something to bye.
so I suppose we'll start with the teams relegated from the Premier League, which obviously are Southampton and Ipswich and
And
Leicester.
Leicester, yeah.
Mainly, I wanted to talk about them first because obviously Premier League and what have you, but also I think there's like the most question marks over some of these teams, specifically Leicester and Southampton. I suppose we haven't actually had the chance to talk about the fact that their new manager is Will
We'll
Still,
still.
which I think me and Will talked about it a little bit last
We
week,
did,
and we
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of just said, you know, that I made my feelings pretty clear that I will be like laser focused on Southampton
Yeah, I
next
like
season.
him. I think he really deserves his opportunity.
I think in terms of a guy who is a pure student of the game, I don't think it gets any bigger. I think the more you hear him talk, whether it was on Sky or you've heard interviews with him with the French press, as I have, um, I think that he is destined for greatness. And I think so many managers get tarred with that a little bit. But yeah, I find it really interesting.
I like him.
I
Uh,
can't believe I can't believe it wasn't Danny Roll. But I also think that at the end of the day, if you are looking for a new manager, no matter whatever level you're at, you should always aim for the best possible candidate. And somebody
Yeah, I
like
agree.
Southampton will still is an unbelievable get because
yeah,
I think that he could have, but because of what he's done at Rem and Lens, he could have walked into a job in the Premier League, and he's chosen to go to Southampton.
I also think though that for his first English club, Southampton is a very, very good fit because I
Yeah,
think he's good at
definitely.
he's good at bringing young players through. He's youthful. He's big into academies and stuff. And Southampton are a really good club for doing that kind of thing
Probably
and
along with
growing.
Brighton as well.
He can grow with the club, and I think it's a great fit. I agree, Jordan. I'm sure he could have got in the Premier League, but I actually think he's been sensible going to like Southampton. It can rejuvenate them, enhance his reputation even further. And I absolutely agree with you. I think he's destined for big things.
Yeah, it
I'll just I'll just jump in there and I'll say on the
go for it.
flip on the flip side, another relegated club in that of Leicester, I see it being a slippery slope for them. You know, we're talking about the rejuvenation of Southampton that we see happening, but I could see Leicester slipping a bit. I feel like the vision between uh, fans, owner, manager, of there's a clear
There's
disconnect,
tension, isn't it?
and
There, yeah,
yeah, and
a
for
fracture.
Leicester, for Leicester a few years ago, we always used to talk about them being a deep connection, and nowadays it's anything but that. So for Leicester, it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Obviously, losing Mr. Leicester and Jamie Vardy, could that have a detrimental impact? We'll
uh,
see.
yeah.
Yeah, I think in terms of Leicester, I think that like we were saying about question marks, there's probably the most question marks over them.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I think that
Any
that is
direction. I mean, sorry to interject, John, but even now, apparently Van Nistelrooy doesn't know what his future holds, so that they
Yeah, I saw
clearly
that as well. Yeah,
carry on.
I think there's enough within what we saw when they'd been relegated, when the foot was off the gas a little bit, to say, okay, Rude, let's just give you a little bit of time and see how we get on. But
Yeah,
the problem with Leicester for the last few years, and I'll never forget having a conversation with my mate Kev, who Sam knows, and he's been a Leicester fan since he was 10 or 11, and he's in his 60s. And he said to me a couple of seasons ago, I think it was a season before Leicester went down the first time. Oh, this could be the start of the end for Leicester. I'm hearing rumours about um, Top and the King Power Group having some money issues and taking money out of the club to pay the debts. And then obviously that season, then they got relegated. Then they come back up and then they haven't really done anything financially either this season.
Yeah, I
Like
think
that was
you're
the biggest
right.
thing. The
You're right.
it started so well with that first game under Van Nistelrooy, wasn't it? The 3-0 win over Wolves.
yeah.
And
West
I'm
Ham won
thinking,
it. Won it
I
West Ham.
Didn't yeah, did he lose his first game at West Ham, then win the one at Wolves? Sorry, and that might have been it.
Yeah,
Um,
something like that.
anyway, so yeah, it's one of them where, like, what's the biggest thing for a club that's fighting for their lives in the Premier League? The January window. And it gets to January and they do nothing.
Yeah, sorry to interject, boys, but I've got to go now. I'd just like to say to you, Will,
Yeah.
seeing as it's the last one, thank you for bringing it back, because above anything else, we've all enjoyed it and it's brought connection, you know.
Oh,
So.
thank you. And of course, without this man, this show would not be in existence, because without Ben's football folio, this is what, excuse the pun, got the ball rolling. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and great to catch up with you, mate. Really
Yeah.
is.
Ben,
Yeah.
just before you go, can
I
I ask you, do you have a highlight of the football season this season?
in terms of the football season, it's going to be the Leon United game. But in terms of this show, I'd say when you said to Jordan, I bet you love it when players called Jordan score. That's just absolutely hilarious.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, boys, on that note, I'll leave you.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks very
All
much,
right,
Ben.
mate. You
Take
take care.
care,
Speak
mate.
soon, yeah?
And you enjoy yourself. See you
Right.
later.
Cheers.
Bye.
See you
Bye
later. Good
bye.
Bye-bye.
luck with uni, mate.
Cheers,
Bye.
bye.
Bye. Um,
Yeah, so continuing on, yeah, I think that, like, they needed to strengthen Leicester in January, and they just didn't. They signed what's he called? Koulibaly from Parma for 3 million quid, and that's about it, if I remember rightly. I think if you're Leicester and you've got the modern history in the Premier League that they have over the last few years,
Yeah.
you can't help but be, like, massively disappointed. I was explaining to you last week, Will, that um in my relegation zone I had Forest, Ipswich, and Southampton for this
Yeah,
year.
I think a lot of people would have expected Forest to go down.
So, like, I didn't think with the squad they had, and also some of the additions that they made in the summer, I felt that they were safe as houses, but, well, not safe as houses, but I thought they'd get over the
would
line.
have enough. Yeah.
Yeah. So to see them, and do you know what it is? I think it's a bit of like, should they really have sacked Steve Cooper?
Yeah, well, they were out in the relegation zone when he sacked him.
Well, yeah,
So.
but I think the fans the fans didn't like him, and I don't think the players they didn't connect with him either, did
I
they?
don't think. I don't think. I'm not being funny. Well, I don't think the fans would have been bothered if they'd have kept him up.
True. Can I just interject on this as well?
Of course.
I think Leicester's issues started with COVID. Really, I think because for those of you that don't know, the King Power run duty free products at airports, and obviously the pandemic hit and no duty free because there are no passengers. So I think that had, whilst it didn't have a massive effect, initially, I think they really started to feel the issues around that, which is kind of what Kev was saying to you, George. And then everything has been going rosy for Leicester really since the owners have taken over up until that point. Obviously they had the tragedy, but
Yeah.
on the pitch.
Apart from
But
Klopp,
then,
well, yeah.
yeah, but even then they were up and around, still in the top 10. And I think they just started to make some bad decisions. Obviously, the fans aren't very happy, but I do think COVID had a massive impact on the club. Whether they'll bounce straight back, I agree with what Ben was saying and George. That it's not going to be easy. Getting out of the championship is difficult,
Yeah.
and they might be there for a couple of years. I also think it's a good opportunity as we sort of verge onto Ipswich and bring all three teams into it. It's the Premier League has always been um, renowned for its competition where anybody can beat anybody, and you've seen teams like
Bournemouth and
Swansea,
Forest.
Swansea come up and survive, and not just survive, do really well.
Oh yeah, become Premier League
Stoke
regulars for a few seasons.
Stoke becoming a regular established Premier League side for a long time. Crystal Palace the same. Leicester for a long time.
Yeah.
I think, and this the first time it happened last season, I wasn't so worried because it's the first time it had happened in ages. But we have to be careful that a pattern doesn't emerge where, which it could do, is up to the clubs, of course, where the three teams that come up go straight back down. And I think suddenly we're on about how football's got closer together in the EFL, but I actually think the Premier League's getting further away.
No,
And I
no.
think
See,
that
I disagree. I mean, Bournemouth being where they are, Forest
yeah,
being where they are.
but if you take the last 2 years in isolation, the three teams that have come up have been well adrift
Okay.
at
Yes.
the
Yes,
bottom.
it is true.
And yes, Forest came up, but since Brentford and Forest came up, and since they came up, we've not really had, that gap. I don't know what George thinks, but I think that gap between the top of the Premiership and Championship and bottom of the Premiership, which you used to say was quite small, and that you could have top Championship players, and
In
you
the
used to
Premier
say
League, yeah.
teams, top championship teams, and you used to say, well, they're almost premiership players because the gap wasn't that big. But I think the gap's getting bigger between the top of the championship and the
No,
premiership.
I
What do you
think
think?
it's just a coincidence that the three that came up come down, and also it's because they've been very poor. I don't think they've
Yeah,
generally
but that's
not
what I'm
deserved it.
saying. That's what I'm saying to
No,
you.
see, I agree with Sam. I think that, like, let's say, for instance, um, Ipswich, all right, they started the season off all right. Like, I remember watching that first game against Liverpool, and they got beat. But you're thinking, yeah, they might have enough to cause some teams some issues, and then they just sort of sank like a stone. And I just think,
But I think
like,
Ipswich have been better than Southampton and Leicester though this season.
I think by the end of it, they went down in the right order. Leicester, Ipswich, Southampton. By the end of it, I think that I agree. It's very concerning that 2 years in a row the ones that have come up have come down. But it leads us nicely. But I do have a few things to say about Ipswich. But it does lead us on nicely to the Championship teams, who I think, based on the fact that Leeds have basically kept most of the players they had when they were originally in the Premier
Right,
League,
yeah, when we were with Bielsa,
uh,
yeah.
which I feel really good about. And also the fact that uh, Burnley conceded something like 15 or 16 goals all season. In any professional league, that is an unreal,
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah. It's
genuinely so good.
like Chelsea did, and you could argue that Burnley had how many more games? 8 more games and conceded 15 goals. I mean,
I
that's
like Scott
amazing.
Yeah,
Parker. He
so
seems to be a really good manager.
yeah, I do too. We'll talk about that in a minute, but I do want to say that I think that my best hope for it not being 3 years in a row of that is this current crop of teams coming up. Um, on Ipswich, I mean, I think
They
it
probably
was,
weren't ready, were they? The
yeah, it was
pre-promotion.
it had been said by loads of people that they have just got a championship level squad. Like the two great things that they did was they brought in Delap,
Yep.
obviously, to get 10+ Premier League goals in a team that's been relegated
It's
is an
it's it's
achievement.
it's really good, I would say.
And we'll talk about the news with him in a second. And then also they brought Omari Hutchinson in from Chelsea, who absolutely lit up the Championship and showed flashes in the Prem, but is still somebody that, let's say, if they need to raise some money in a couple of years, they could get rid of for quite a good fee.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So
Go on, you first.
but all in all, I think that it was a squad that was pretty poorly um, added to. I think obviously getting Hutchinson in was great. Delap was great. I think Alex Palmer coming in from West Brom in January was an odd one because I don't think he was that big of an improvement on Muric. But when it comes to goalkeepers, they tend to be very data driven, so there must have been some sort of upgrade
Yeah.
uh, in there. I think in buying Jacob Greaves from Hull in the summer, they bought one of the best Championship defenders, but like we say, you don't know
They'll
what
be
the
like in
level
the
is.
Premier League. Yeah.
I think Calvin,
I like Leaf Davis a lot.
yeah, quality player. I think Calvin Phillips is one of the worst Premier League signings ever, twice, because he just can't seem to get it going,
Has it
which
has
isn't.
the fall from him at Manchester City, has it affected him still? Do you think?
I'd be very interested to see what his next move is.
Leeds, I reckon, back the Leeds.
Oh, yeah, that's what I would have said too.
Yeah, because that's where
But
City bought
But then
him from.
again, they've got a pretty solid midfield, and also it's like, don't forget Calvin Phillips was Bielsa's boy. Calvin Phillips couldn't get a game at all for Leeds before Bielsa came in,
Right.
and he transformed him into this great midfielder. But then no Bielsa, no party for Phillips, and I don't really think that Daniel Farker would like a player like him.
Right.
there was rumours he was going to lose his job, wasn't there?
Yeah, we talked about it a lot last week.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Thoughts on that, Sam? Because it's
What him
tied in as well.
losing his if he loses his job?
Well, I think they've come out and said that he's not going to, haven't they? But like we said when with whatever it was we were talking about earlier on, I genuinely can't remember now.
How many times have we
When
had that? Oh no, we're gonna stick by a manager, and then
Yeah, when I had said earlier on in the show, I can't remember what we're on about now because it just kind of goes out of my head. But I said, don't trust an ownership.
yeah,
My view on it, I understand the concerns because the Norwich side they brought up stormed the championship twice and then
struggled in the
stunk
Premier
out
League. Yeah,
stunk out the Premiership really because they didn't, a bit like with Burnley when they came up under Vincent Company, they weren't willing to change their style at all and then just got overran completely. So I understand the concerns. However, I think he did bring them up, so he at least deserves
I
to
agree.
be
I
given
think
some
he at least
Christmas.
deserves the chance. Yeah.
What was your view, George? Because obviously I wasn't here last week.
Uh,
Yeah.
I completely get it from the owner's point of view, but I think it's very harsh. Should he lose his job?
Then
Because
Watford did that, didn't they?
let's face it, despite the fact that it's the game. Sorry, we're on about the playoff final, but obviously I think he did win a playoff final, didn't he, with Norwich? Wasn't it the first one or not? Am I
No, he
right or
got
wrong? Or
promoted
did he win
twice.
the title every time?
Yeah, he did.
Right. Okay. Fair. You know, the money that well, irregardless, the money jump from the Championship to the Premier League is massive. But the big thing that anybody needs to think about, maybe it's not the same as the Leeds because they're owned by the 49ers group, which obviously
Yeah.
there's a massive American sports
Yeah.
scenario. they might have enough money to go and do something, but for the most part, Championship clubs, no matter who you are, if you're a Leeds or let's say even a Burnley, Southampton, Sunderland, for instance, who are owned by like a multi-billionaire, if you've got decently wealthy owners in the Championship, you're well away. You're up there challenging, or you should be financially anyway. Then when you come into when you come into the Premier League, even if you've got tons of money, you're automatically a small fish
Yeah.
Yeah, because they got
because
the mega bucks.
let's say who finished 17th? Was it Wolves or Everton?
No, it was Tottenham.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Right, let's choose a better example than that. Um,
Everton, Wolves, or something.
let's say like a Brentford, for instance, right? Matthew Benham built his business up. I think it's something to do with betting. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So,
it
so
is.
he'll have a pretty decent pool of money, right? So, but again, it might be a poor example because of the way they run things, but he's still got probably enough money to challenge this 49ers group straight away because they haven't had years and years of Premier League football as Brentford have,
That is
for
very
instance.
true.
Again, a poor example because I know the 49ers are massive and Brentford's a bad
No, I
example,
get
but
what you mean. That experience of being there, the way you need to change your running model, the way you, yeah,
yeah.
because it's not just the on the pitch stuff. It's looking at how you run the business when you're not as big a when you haven't got all the money just to chuck at it
But
all of
but at
a
the
sudden.
same
But
time,
doing,
let's look at, for instance, clubs that have owners that are to do with sports groups. Arsenal
Yes.
are one. Man United
Yep.
with the Glazers. Uh, Todd Bowley was to do with baseball, if I'm not correct. Liverpool have all got sports. So the Fenway Sports Group, and
Yep.
the
yeah,
the Glazers obviously own uh, teams in Miami, I think it is. So
Yeah.
listen, if you can make it work, it's there for you.
I also think it's interesting with American models because they don't always work because their sports is very different from. I'm not saying it doesn't always work, it does, but that we've seen in the past with the Glaziers, with um, other American-owned football clubs, that it doesn't always work because they're used to a certain kind of franchise and stuff, and
That's
they don't
right. But I'll
really.
tell you what, this is off topic, but I'll tell you what, I was listening to the Athletic the other day, and they were talking about how uh, MLS want to trial promotion and relegation for the MLS because as the people to do with the MLS have studied European football based on the soccer model, they want to make it a bit more like
Competitive.
Jeopardy because there's no jeopardy
Yeah.
in soccer. There's no jeopardy whatsoever. If
No,
you have a bad season, you're bottom of the Western or Eastern Conference because that's how it works. Even then, basically, the only time you've had a good season at all in the MLS is if you get within the top eight, top seven, or whatever it is, and you get into the MLS playoffs, which is why they brought in that supporter shield trophy that Miami won.
I just, I mean, if football didn't have promotion and relegation, I know they did different things there. I wouldn't watch it.
Well,
Well,
Like,
that's why.
it's
That's
a lot
why.
of
That's
control, wouldn't it?
they want to. They want to.
what
They want to change things with soccer because the MLS and Apple have a deal. Basically, like, do you know how the NBA Pass works? So you
yeah,
can sign up for NBA Pass, but you can sign up to only watch your team. So let's say, for example, my basketball team is Orlando Magic and has been since I've been going to America. If I paid for the NBA pass, I could pay only to watch Orlando games, right? And that's what they've been doing for the MLS. And the MLS games themselves are very, very well attended in terms of like the stadiums are are almost full most of the time, the big ones anyway.
Right, yeah.
But in terms of people watching MLS games, people don't sit down and watch them.
So are they going to make it where you can watch any of the teams?
So I think that's why they want to add. They're looking at adding a promotion relegation dynamic
Well,
because
it's stupid not to have it in any sport anyway. I've never understood that about Americans. So it's hard. It's hard in my opinion.
no,
It
there's
is.
no there's no like you said, there's no jeopardy, and that's the main thing I think.
Well, that's what
Really,
we love. That's why the European Super League, well, it's probably going to come back into some form, but that's why that got given the boot because the European model, we just won't have that. It's alien to
look
us.
at how much more exciting the Champions League was this season when they turned it into a Champions League format. You're all
Yeah,
right. There was no promotion relegation, but there was still like if you were in the bottom, you're missing out.
I quite enjoyed the new model. I know it got a lot of stick.
I thought the Champions League was great this season.
And don't get me wrong, I loved the old model, but thinking about it, it's been that way for 30, 30 years,
Well, yeah,
more
probably, yeah,
30
the
years.
since it was
So,
relaunched
so,
into the Champions
yeah.
League.
And having just a group, the groups of four, like, was getting a bit tedious. So I love the fact that they kept like the last 16 the same, the quarterfinal, semi-final, final. But I really enjoyed the group stage. I really did. So yeah.
No, yeah, I agree. I agree. Just to take us a little bit off topic, kind of. I'm just reading that apparently Joe Bellingham has said yes to Borussia Dortmund.
Oh, right, okay, so yeah, that's happening. I know it was rumoured to be, right.
I really hoped I really hoped that what I said last week might come true, and we'd get a Bellingham and Henderson midfield for Sunderland in the Premier League next year.
I think he'd be
But there
pretty
you go.
stupid to not give it at least try a season in the Premier League with Sunderland now that they've come up.
So yeah, we've had a bit of a chat about. Well, we went way off topic there, but yeah, I think they definitely keep Farker, see how it goes. But don't leave it too late. 'Cause I think if they're going to make a change, because I think with the Jesse Marsh thing, I think they left it too late to get rid of Jesse Marsh.
See, I quite liked him.
No, I liked him. I think he deserves another chance, but he's doing a great job with Canada right now. So why would he go?
Yeah, yeah. What how long would you give it then with Daniel Farker?
Maybe give him till Christmas.
I don't know nowadays because with the gap getting. See, this is what makes it really difficult with football management, right? Because I think part of the thing with owners is that owners of any club, and I think like Tottenham and Man United are a good example this season. They're starting to see how easy it is now with how competitive that middle of the Premier League is getting to get dragged right down in there. And if you're one of them newly promoted teams and you don't start badly, you don't start well, sorry, you're fucked. To be blunt, because that's the way it seems.
Yeah.
The only thing where I would say the only caveat to that is obviously Wolves looked in a very poor position,
Yeah.
and yet now there's two caveats here. Well, the biggest one is I think that they had the squad to be sort of upper mid table, and secondly, I think Gary O'Neill had lost the dressing room anyway. Um, but yeah, I think obviously Wolves managed to get out of it, but they had a squad. Like I said, like they at the time that this stat came out, they were 17th in the Premier League, and they had 3 starters for Brazil in the lineup.
Yeah,
That's a team. That's a team that basically, given any sort of decent coaching and a manager really got behind, because they'd obviously sort of fucked off Gary O'Neill a little bit, that they would have done all right. And in the end, they ended up finishing sort of mid table, a bit higher up. I think like 14th fish, didn't they? So
yeah.
that it is on an end. The last thing that I wanted to say really was I wanted a bit of a word on Kieran McKenna. How do we
Don't
feel about him?
worry. And it was always going to, it's a shame for Ipswich in some ways that they went straight up and straight up again because uh, I don't think they were ready as a football club. If they'd had a few years to build in the Championship, then yeah, but they probably would have lost him by then. But as a club, they could have been more set and more ready for Premier League football. I think it all kind of happened way above schedule.
I suppose this is the difficult thing though, because you can say like they if they'd have had an if they'd have had an extra year at the chat in the championship, it's not their fault really that there's that big of a difference between the championship and the Premier League, because they were without a doubt deserving of automatic promotion last year.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So it's really difficult, but I can see them sticking with him because I think based on what I've seen, I
They're
think
in a
they
much
know what they've
healthier
got.
state than compared to Leicester and Southampton, I would
Well,
say.
it's not just that
He
as well.
might,
I think they're very aware of how good of a manager he could be, and
unless,
obviously he
unless
is.
he doesn't, unless he gets snapped up, obviously, Tottenham could turn around and go take a punt on him, or somebody like again if Farker's not doing it at Leeds, you could maybe see him there.
It's funny that you mentioned Tottenham because that was going to be my next point. Now, I was reading the other day they still haven't made a decision about the future of Ange Postecoglou,
I
which
keep him as
again,
terrible as season they've had. But
I would
again,
keep him
this
because, winning the Europa League, and that means getting back into the Champions League and ending their trophy drought.
and they
well,
did start to show they could play a slightly different way in Europe. So I'd give him. Obviously, the league form was unacceptable. It was embarrassing, even with the amount of injuries they had. But he did win a trophy, and he did. It's a bit of a catch-22, really,
do
because
you,
you're
do
damned
you
if you
think
do, damned if
when you look at the fact that Tottenham had the injuries that Tottenham had and were fielding guys that had never played for Tottenham before and putting centre backs that, putting midfielders into
with
centre half and stuff. Do
with
you
the
think,
system as well, with the way he plays.
yeah, so do you think there's more of an excuse for Tottenham finishing 17th than there is for Man United finishing 15th?
Absolutely, because Tottenham won a trophy and I didn't.
Well,
And had
my
Ange not
person.
won the Europa League trophy, I think, Ange saved his job doing that, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that. Did you read? It come out what he said to them as well, didn't it? It come out that he'd said,
Oh, I always
um,
win a trophy in my second season.
no, what he said to them in the dressing room when he said, you're going to go out there, and when you come back, I'm going to see him, and they're going to put. He pointed at Son, and he's like, I'm going to see him holding a trophy, and he's been here 10 years, and he's worked so hard to do that, and that's what you're going to do this for, or something along the lines of
Oh, well,
that.
I must have
And
missed that.
I just think like. Again, they haven't won a European trophy for 41 years. They haven't won a trophy at all for
Since
for
2008.
sort of 18, 17 years. So like, can you
What's
sack
your
him?
view? Because you've always been, I think it's time for him to go, George, in the last few months. he said, "Oh, I don't think he will, but I feel like he should." So now that they've won a trophy, and obviously you don't like them because you're a Chelsea fan, but
Well,
they're taking that aside. Do you obviously it is a kind of a juxtaposition of terrible in the league, but they won the European trophy. So what's your view on Ange Postecoglou and
firstly, our English teacher would have been very, very proud of you for using the word
That's a
juxtaposition.
that's a big
And
word.
that just made me think of her because I seem to remember us in English and she used to be big on that word, remember?
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I think a lot of it came down to with Ange. Even like I was convinced from maybe the quarterfinal stage that United were going to win the Europa League.
I thought it was
So
going to
especially
be
after the
close. I
Lyon,
thought it was going to
the
be
Lyon
close, and
thing.
then United would nick it in penalties. I thought.
no, I'd been convinced even before the well, no, actually that was the quarterfinals was the Leon, wasn't it? But yeah, from that point, I was convinced United were going to win it because that. In fact, I was convinced that United were then that was going to galvanise United as a whole. Obviously, it didn't really. But even when they were doing poorly in the league, I still thought they'd find a way in Europe, and they didn't. So I think that does, for instance, you could say, does Ruben Amorim deserve to stay at United after what's gone on?
Yeah, 'cause it's a
Yes, he
bit
does because
different.
he's not brought many of his own players, and he's still saddled with the deadwood from Ten Hag and Ollie and
Yeah, but the core of that squad is playing a system that just doesn't suit them.
Yeah, it's silly, but I won't get rid of him now. I think it was more important for Anders to win that
No,
final.
it definitely was. I'm just playing devil's advocate. I think
whoever
that
was going to win that final would have kept their job. Whoever was, well, yeah, I don't know.
let me ask you a question. Who do you think deserved it more?
Tottenham, because
I
what
agree.
on the yeah, because the way United are as a club, and so we watched the final together, George.
Yes,
Yeah,
we did. Yeah.
so and I was there, and 4 days later. I then went to play in the nationals in my parachair football, and I'm lucky enough to play for Man United. And I was putting my shirt on in the Saturday morning, ready to go, and I thought I'm disgusted at my club at the minute. Not for the on-field stuff so much, but more for the off-field
Oh,
stuff.
it's been
And
chaos, hasn't it?
in terms of Jim Radcliffe not paying for the staff to go, in terms of them saying about a barbecue for the players and no parade, no bus trip tour, which is absolutely disgusting. So I in some ways was like, I always support my club, but I was like, you get what you deserve.
What
Uh,
about let me ask you this because I don't think I know. We haven't really talked about it. The Garnacho situation.
yeah,
He's a
The
goner,
fact
I think.
the fact that stuff has been leaked to the press about what Amorim told the dressing room and what he said. Obviously, you better be
No,
praying that somebody's going to sign you or whatever it was. That's brutal to say in front of your
in
11.
front of
I'm
the
sorry.
players, yeah.
I don't care whether he thinks that he is shit. I don't care whether he thinks that he's never going to play for him again. I think it is absolutely piss poor management to
yeah.
do that in front of
Well,
your
it
squad.
is when you knew it. If Ferguson had done it,
He would have done it
then you.
behind closed doors.
No. But if
He
Ferguson had
wouldn't.
no,
He wouldn't.
yeah, exactly. If Ferguson had done it with all that Fergie won, and then United were brilliant, he'd go, "Oh, that was great from Fergie. Yeah, it was rough, but it was great. The thing is with Amarin, he's been in the job 5 minutes and we're struggling. So you've got to be. Fergie could kind of say and do what he wanted because he had, he backed it up. Do you know what I mean? With the results on the
Completely.
field. But
Well, that is true.
Amarin's in a very delicate situation at the minute where if things aren't going well, certain players don't know if they're going to be there or not, but he can't get rid of the whole squad. So he's got to be very careful what he says
But
because he's not
got
in
to stamp his.
he's not in a position of power like Guardiola said in the media about Calvin Phillips being overweight, and we all said that's a bit dicey. But that was Pep Guardiola who was winning stuff, and yeah, I know he came out and apologised for it. But you kind of go, well, he shouldn't have said that. But it's Pep Guardiola, and he's got that squad by the scruff of its neck. Ruben Amorim hasn't, so he needs to be very careful what he says. Now, ideally, and this is not me being going on a rant, but ideally Amorim would get rid of the whole squad if he could. But unfortunately, football doesn't work like that. With maybe Bruno and Yoro taken out of that, but the rest of them can probably go, including Garnacho, because I don't think his attitude's been great. However, he's got to be that won't happen, and he's got to be so careful what he says and does, Amorim, because he's not in the position of
Yeah,
strength, is
but
he?
the
So
way I see it, the manager has got to stamp the authority. If your attitude is wrong, you.
no, he does. But to say that to the players,
Oh
what
yes,
he
yes, I,
said
I agree with that. He
in
should have
front,
done it behind
in front
closed
of
doors.
them, when he's not in a position, Jordan will know what I mean, don't you, Jordan? When he's
Yeah.
not in a position of strength, when things are falling apart around him, and there's question marks, so you have to keep people on side.
Yeah,
To
and
a certain extent.
he hasn't got the right. He has, in my eyes, he
He hasn't
hasn't got the
earned the
right.
right. He hasn't earned the right either, has he?
No, exactly. Um, yeah, and I also think that the funniest thing about him saying that to Garnacho is I can imagine that most of those players in that dressing room don't agree.
Yeah.
And I also think that the stupid thing about saying that is kind of the reason why Man United didn't get rid of Amorim anyway, because I think that Amorim, if he left United, would go and have a great career somewhere else and win all the things that Man United want him to win. I genuinely believe that, and I
Well,
also think that that's why
well,
the Garnacho thing is going to bite Amorim in the arse, because I think that wherever Garnacho goes, and I hope it isn't Chelsea, which keeps coming up again. I think wherever Garnacho goes, let's say Napoli, for instance, I think he'd absolutely tear it up.
look at Scott McTominay.
Yeah, and like they love him.
It's not the first
So
time
what?
Garnacho's had issues because he was dropped along with Rashford, if you remember, for the Manchester derby, and Ten Hag had some issues with him as well. So yeah,
Yeah,
So
but is it?
what?
But again, it's like, what? This is what you're talking about two incredibly poor man managers in, well, from what we've seen in Amorim and Ten
In
Hag.
the situation that they were in as well.
Yeah, in the situation they're in, because like I just think that Garnacho can be that. Like you've got to think Garnacho was thrust into United's first team. He's still very young, and players nowadays and throughout all of football, but especially nowadays, they get so much so quick. As you need to put an arm around them and not bollock them. Not like I think that what's come out as what's been said is fucking appalling.
So I ask you this, and we'll wrap it up from there if you want. Do you think, George, first of all, Ruben Amorim will be successful at Manchester United?
I think he will be successful, uh, more successful than some other managers, but do I think they'll be winning titles in cups and challenging? Probably not. Not for a few seasons now.
Will he be in the job this time next year?
I think so, but
Yeah.
because I think that they will. I think they'll finish much higher than they have. But I still don't. I still think it'll be a fight to get into Europe. And when I say Europe, I don't mean Champions League. I mean
You mean
Conference League.
Europa
Europa
League
League.
in
Yeah, I
conference?
mean, so, and I think if they do that based on this squad and this system, that would be a great achievement.
Yeah, small steps. So I
But
ask you,
go
go
on.
on.
No, no.
I ask you the same question then about Ange Postecoglou. Will he be long-term successful at Spurs, or is this the end of the road? And even if he does keep his job, will he be out? Will Ange Postecoglou firstly be in the job next season?
It's a very hard question.
I suppose it depends how Tottenham's season
So
is.
I'll tell you why I think it's a hard question. Because I think that Ange can get away with finishing 17th, but winning the Europa League because they still got to the semi-finals of the League Cup, and
We've
they've
got
still
Champions League football.
because no matter how bad it's been and how bad it's been in the league, in other places they've still done well.
So
However,
go on.
however, should they not finish within the top five, because I think top five, top six, Europa League and
Plus,
whatever.
if they crash out the
I think
Champions League early as well.
I think there is a very, very high chance that he'll be gone.
Yeah.
And I
What
think,
before the start of next season?
oh no, I think he'll stay because I
All
think that there's a lot. I think that there's already a lot of pressure on Daniel Levy and the ownership group at Spurs, isn't there?
Yes.
right.
So, like, that's a pretty fractured relationship right there. So if I was him, I wouldn't be doing anything to jeopardize that. And I think
Well,
getting rid of Ange does
I
jeopardize
don't
it.
think it would jeopardise it because the fans are very split as well on Ange, aren't they?
Yeah, but he still won them. This is what I mean. He still won them a trophy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
more
I
fans
feel
seem
like
to
you.
be now open about Ange now.
I feel like you just can't argue with the fact that they've won the Europa League.
And got Champions League football and a trophy.
It's like Maresca, for instance. If Maresca finished eighth or ninth, but they won the Conference League, would he still be in the job?
Yeah, probably.
I don't know. I mean, I'd tell you what I did like. A lot of the Chelsea, like obviously Reece James and Cole Palmer got interviewed, and they both wouldn't say whether they thought they'd had a good season or not.
Yeah.
And I like that
Oh, for God's
because I think
sake,
that
it's a
that
simple question. Did you have a good season? Yes or no? Oh, absolute bollocks.
all right. What do you think about that, Sam? Because knowing you, I think you like that.
I like the fact that they've
Yeah,
said
I do too.
because for Chelsea's standards, they're not talking about that. They're saying, we want to be up there, and all right, we got in the Champions League and we've won a trophy, but we're still very inconsistent. So I like
I
the
love
fact
it.
they want
I
to push
can't help
something.
but love it. I absolutely love it.
And
I
that's
just think,
part of the problem with Man United. And Spurs can get away with saying they've had a good season because it's been so long since they've won anything. But that's the issue with Man United. Like, we don't have that winning mentality. We say, oh, we're playing well now. And the players are all like, oh, look at us. And that's why they're not that good. So I like it. I think it.
oh, do you think that the sort of the arrogance of playing for Manchester United is a big downfall for Man United as well? Because I
It
was talking to
shouldn't be anymore because
when we talked to Ben last week, we obviously didn't record with Ben, but did I asked him the question, which I'd sort of come to a conclusion on that I actually think that the class of '92 and Roy Keane and Rio Ferdinand, all speaking about the way that Man United is killing that club.
I just don't think we got players that can
And
handle it.
and my other example for that is like one of my favorite podcasts to listen to is the John Obi Mikel podcast, and I love listening to him speak to the Petr Cechs, the Eden Hazards, whoever, but they speak about this Chelsea team so negatively, and I just think the different clubs, the different clubs. What would, for instance, what would the '60s?
Yeah, but
What would the Tottenham team of the '60s say to this Tottenham team?
you
Probably wouldn't be
should.
very good. But the game was literally completely different in the '60s because it
Yeah,
was
but
fucking
the DNA, the
because it was 2
DNA,
points for a win in
but
the fucking '60s. So
the
it's irrelevant.
but the DNA of the club shouldn't change that much, and that's why I like Palmer's and James's interview because
Love it. It's so old school, isn't it?
they know what the club should be, and fair play to them. So,
I
sorry,
absolutely.
Will. Why do you think it's bollocks
Well,
then?
I just
Come
think
on, give
it's a
us the
simple.
other
I
side.
think it's a simple question. Did you have a good season? Yes or no? If they don't answer the question, they should be
But
bloody politicians.
you're looking at it from a question point of view, but they're looking at it from a wider point of view where Chelsea should be and hasn't been. So you're just looking at it from an instant reaction where they're looking at it from a bigger picture.
See, I think in the end, Maresca's first season, as it stands, has been a success. They've won a trophy
Mm.
and they've got into the Champions League places, which I didn't think Chelsea would be in. I thought they would be in the Europa League places, best case scenario. So,
No,
Well,
but
I, to be
this is
fair, I
what.
did say they might be in a relegation battle or be thereabouts. And what I didn't realise was my own club was going to be where I thought Chelsea was. So there we go.
but yeah, no, it's just it's a simple question to me. It is
Yeah,
have
but
you
you're
had a good
looking at
season?
it
Yes or no?
closed-minded, Will. This is where your mind is very narrow.
Yeah, but
Because
it's also shows that like you don't think like the average football fan, because I think most football fans would see that Reece James and Cole Palmer have done that and love it.
yeah, because they understand. Yeah,
Right, well, fair
yeah.
enough.
They're not because they're not saying like, no, we haven't had a good well, they are,
I'd
but
just rather they be
then
honest, to be honest.
but they have they've
But they're
answered it by not
implying,
answering it. That's the point.
yeah, they've implied that yeah, it's been okay. Yeah, it's good to get a piece of silverware, but it's not where we want to be or need to be to drive this club of this stature.
I don't necessarily get why you don't understand that. But then again, I don't know what to expect with you nowadays.
Right, well, yeah, that's just my view on that anyway.
Did you watch the Conference League final, Sam? Out of
I
curiosity,
did. I
did
did.
you think Chelsea were going to win?
Uh, I, I thought it would be close. I said yes before the start of the match, and then at half time I thought, oh yeah, they're definitely not going to win. Because
No, I did as well. Straight away, I think the game had been on for like 2 minutes, and I said to myself, "We're not winning this," and it was still 0-0.
because Isco, I thought Isco was incredible in the first
I
half.
thought they were
Oh, what
gonna.
a player
I
he
thought they
is!
were gonna win, and then I looked at the live text. So, ooh, actually, maybe not.
But then I just think they overpowered
Real
um,
Betis, yeah.
Real
The
Betis.
thing that I thought was Betis used the ball better, but they were giving the ball away to Chelsea all the time, and Chelsea were getting the second ball and winning the ball back all the time. Like, it's funny because we've had loads of conversations about Enzo Fernandez, and I think that shows you why he is important to this Chelsea going forward because he epitomizes the improvement. Because I like him a lot, but his numbers haven't been great for Chelsea before this season.
Yeah. But then you could say Chelsea haven't been great. Haven't been anywhere near it till this season.
But then as well, you could also say a Chelsea, like, let's say Chelsea 10 years ago with Enzo Fernandez in,
Would have been great.
it'd be one of the top players, yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying, because the team around him's not been great, but they're getting there. I mean, the way I looked at this Europa Conference League final, George, I was like, this could be a stepping stone for Chelsea. This could actually be a very important trophy for this young group of
I
players.
completely agree, and the commentators said that as well, didn't they?
If they go on and win multiple stuff, they might look back and go, this was the most important part of that. Not the most important trophy,
This is the one
but
that
that
started
stepping
it all.
stone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
It's very interesting. I was glad that we won in the end, and glad
Do you
that
think
both Sancho and Jackson got goals as well, because I think they both deserved it after getting stick, haven't they? Both of them.
talking of Sancho, is he going to stay at Chelsea, do we think?
Hope so. I don't know how likely it is, though. They're in talks, aren't they?
Do you think he's done enough to stay there?
Yeah. Scored a goal in a European final, that's enough.
Okay, fair enough.
What do you think,
Yeah,
Sam?
what do you think?
I think it's a tough one.
He's had moments, hasn't he?
If I was Chelsea, and there's no doubt about his talent, I would pay the 5 million to get him back to Man United. And that's not saying he's not a good player, but I just don't think he's, with all the hassle of trying to get him to fit in their wage structure and all that kind of thing. I think
that's the problem, isn't it? I think what
is
they'll
he not suited to
what
English
they'll
football?
do
Is that the problem?
what I think they'll do is they'll try and chop his wages in half, but give him a longer deal. So eventually he actually earns more, but he doesn't get do you know what I mean? Because that's what they do. They give them like reduced based wage, but over longer time. So in the end, it's actually a really expensive contract, but the expense isn't straight away. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I get
isn't
you.
that aren't they stopping those 10-year contracts? I read somewhere that the Premier League are looking into stopping,
Oh, yeah, it does seem a
allowing
little
them.
bit stupid to tie someone to a 10-year contract.
Yeah, but what did I just explain to you, Will? That's why they're doing it. They do it so they don't get in all the financial troubles.
Oh, I'm sorry, right, okay, yeah.
It's basically a way to cheat the system,
Right,
but still get the players you want.
right, okay.
If yeah, I don't know. I think he has deserved it, but I still think there's doubts about him.
Do you think, does he fit the English game, Sancho?
The thing is, we haven't really seen that much of it
No.
in the English game to answer that.
So
Because I think that Man United was a bad move.
Okay, so when he's played for England, United, and Chelsea, so all together, do you think he suits the English game?
Again, he's got 23 caps for England, but I couldn't tell you one game where I'd seen that much of him on the ball.
Right.
But then again, I don't really feel like the Southgate style that he was in the England squad for suited a winger like him. I think that he can be a success. I just think that he's not made good choices when it comes to post Dortmund.
Sam, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with all that. But I think United has the capability. Cunha could go there, for example, and we know he's a great player.
As he has gone, 62.5 mil.
No, I know, yeah, but he could go there and really struggle because
I think that's a baffling move, by the way. I'm just going to put it out there right now.
what you do, you think it's baffling that he's gone to United?
Yeah.
Unless he's a United fan, which he might
But
be.
I just can't.
So,
I can't see it fitting.
sorry, that
And it's not a step forward; it's a sidestep.
can I just interrupt? So, do you think it's baffling his choice to go to United, or for United to sign him?
I think it's baffling that he chose to go to United.
Right.
But right, let's. I don't know if this is the case, but let's presume one of the reasons he chose to go, which is amazing to say, because United used to be one of the biggest pulls in the world. But let's say that he's, and it shows how far we've gone down. But let's say he's a United fan.
Who grew up
I'd
watching
accept that,
United
but
on the
I don't think
television.
that's why he's gone. You see.
No, but if he is, let's just play devil's advocate a minute. And Chelsea, you'd had a season like Cunha's had for Wolves, and Chelsea approached you, who were in exactly the same situation as Man United, struggling and looking very uncertain. Would you go to Chelsea, or would you go to another Premier League club that was more stable?
It depends what I wanted. If I was Mateus Cunha and I was 26, 27, 25, Cunha, is he?
25, I think he is. Yeah.
If I was his age, peak, would I have gone to Man United? Probably not.
Probably not. Yeah.
Because I don't see a world where, like, because in my opinion, Amorim needs mostly a new starting 11 to change this
I
team,
agree.
and I don't
And
think
it's
that.
going to take some time, which is why if I was Bruno Fernandes,
Oh, he's going. I think he's
I'd
going.
leave as well. I don't think he's going to go to Al Hilal, by the way, but I think he'll
No,
go.
but they turned around and said that basically they're like blank check whatever United want, they'll pay. Which, let's face it, they're a Saudi team. They can probably do that.
Yeah.
Which doesn't say a lot about the future of English football, but I'm just putting it out there as like we'll see about the credibility of Fernandez. But even if he doesn't go to Al Hilal, as much as I give him stick about his attitude, you can't deny he's a solid player.
Oh, yeah.
But
Yeah,
I think his attitudes.
he's only got one big move left in him, hasn't he?
Yeah, but
He's
don't
not
you
got
think that that's the thing
transfer
about
either.
Cunha? Don't you think that's the same with Cunha? He might
Uh,
be 25, 26, 27, whatever he is, but
yeah, maybe.
but if you're playing good in this United team, like City are looking for a number 10, I find it bizarre that they haven't gone for Cunha. They're looking at Cherky from
Morgan
Lyon,
Gibbs
I
White, they
think,
were
I think,
rumoured as well.
and Morgan Gibbs right, yeah.
yeah.
But then again, I don't know. It's very interesting, all of it. Where were we even up to? We've gone on a right tangent.
We're on about
Oh,
Kieran.
we were talking about Ipswich and Kieran
Yeah.
McKenna. And the thing that I was going to say was that I think if Ange Postecoglou doesn't stay, then I reckon they might look straight at Kieran
And of
McKenna.
course, Kieran
Although the two
McKenna
names,
used to be manager of the under 23s or under 18s.
although the two names that I'd seen are Thomas Frank and Marco Silva.
I think Thomas Frank deserves a chance.
I think he does, but I don't think he suits.
Stay.
I don't know how he would manage with a big club.
Stay at Brentford if I was him, Thomas Frank.
No, he's got Brentford where they did. He's going to maybe lose Vissa and Mbuemo. Like,
Yeah, by the way, if I was both of those, I'd go for a big move if to get one. I think Wissa's 29.
yeah, if I was Wissa, I'd probably stay. If I was Mbuemo, I'd probably move.
Right. Okay, shall we think about wrapping this up.
What are we actually supposed to be doing? Are we looking at relegations and promotions? Let's very quickly try and do
Okay,
that.
right, that's fine.
Yeah.
So, how do we feel about the promoted teams that coming into the Premier League? Because I feel really good. Like I said, we talked a little bit about we talked quite a bit about Leeds, but in terms of their actual squad, I think that is is at least lower mid-table.
I
But then
still think they struggle.
I always think, and again, I was listening to the Athletic, and they said it the other day, like to stay in the Premier League, you're banking on either an incredible season by one of these newly promoted
Yeah.
teams, or the fact that some of the lower mid-table just have a nightmare season.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
true.
It's I think it is worrying for the future of English football that the Premier League is so impenetrable. But
It is if it goes a third season, then I think there's a real issue. There's an issue
yeah,
already, but if it goes.
especially with
No,
Leeds
I
and
disagree. I don't
Burnley.
think it is an issue yet.
With Leeds and Burnley being as dominant as they were in the Championship and breaking the records they broke and scoring the goals and keeping the clean sheets, if this Burnley team or Leeds team perform as bad as a Leicester, a Southampton, uh, 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 and Ipswich, then there is something seriously wrong with the gap between the Premier League and the EFL.
Yeah,
That
I
being
agree.
said, I think I know what you might say, but who do you think's most likely to stay up?
Out of Leeds, Burnley,
I
Sunderland.
think
and Sunderland.
I think Burnley. I reckon.
Yeah, I would say Burnley out, but just because of their defence.
Yeah, I think there's not a lot
And
between
Scott
Burnley and
Parker
Leeds for
also
me.
did pretty well in the Premier League.
I'm absolutely desperate, and I mean desperate, for Scott Parker to do well.
I really
Because
like him.
I think that part of the problem with the English football media is they're so like Premier League centric that guys that have done decent jobs in the Championship don't really get a look in. Like he's managed three different teams in the Championship and got all three promoted.
Let's see. So Bournemouth, Burnley, Fulham.
Yeah, correct. So and yeah, all right, they were good squads, but we've seen better squads than some of them not get through. Look at Leeds last year; they were beaten at Wembley by Southampton.
Yeah.
So I'm desperate for him to do well. I really, really am. Similarly, I think Sunderland have got a massive summer ahead of them. I think it's
Well,
also
if they're losing Bellingham, as it looks like, and they've lost that lad to Brighton, and pardon me, I've just read that there's interest in one of their young centre halves as well.
yeah, that squad. The concerning thing for Sunderland, but also the good thing, is that squad is ridiculously young, which is good and bad
But
because
Jordan Henderson's about to rocket up the age there.
well, I'd love that. I'd love that if he went to them. I'd love that
I didn't realise he started at Sunderland.
yeah.
Yeah, if you look back, was it 2008, 9, something like that, 9,
Yeah,
10?
2008 to 2011, he
I
was there.
thought he came from the Liverpool academy. To be honest.
No, yeah, because he's got such a great Liverpool accent, hasn't he?
Okay, that's probably why then. Yeah.
No, he hasn't got a Liverpool accent, well, has he?
No, he's got a northeast. He's got a Geordie
It's not.
accent.
Geordie
I
accent.
wouldn't say it's strong Geordie compared to like
It
Ross
is.
Noble.
I would. You can't fucking
It is.
understand him.
Him and Jordan Pickford.
Yeah, they've got the Macam accent, haven't they?
Yeah.
Not the Geordie, because it is a little bit
Mind you,
different.
to be honest, some
Well-
accents I can't tell the difference, like South Africans and Aussies.
You want to be careful there.
Controversial.
You'll be getting cancelled.
And not to mention the New Zealand accent is different as well, which
Is it?
throws it
Oh,
off a little
right,
bit.
I can't tell.
Yeah, I think Sunderland needs to have a massive summer because it's a really young squad, and I think that if they do lose Bellingham, I think that's big.
It's a great shame he's
Although,
gone because you would have thought he'd give
Well,
it.
it's not gone yet.
Well,
like for the Bellingham brothers and the Bellingham family as a whole, like what a pair of footballers that they've produced.
Jude and Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Although,
you can see them both playing for England together, can't you? In the
yeah,
next
I think it's very likely that they'll both play for not only for England but also for Madrid together if Job carries on.
Yeah, he's got some way to go
Hold
yet.
on, yeah, just steady.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. He's very talented, and he might be a slight late bloomer, but I don't think he's quite as good as Jude. But not many people
No,
are.
but Jude always says that when they were younger, he's the better one, and he's always stuck to that, hasn't he?
Is he not trying to be
Jude said
humble though?
Jude said that Job was the better one.
Yeah, he's always said that. Even
Mm.
when he signed for Real Madrid, I think they asked him, and he was like, "Yeah, my brother's actually a better footballer than me." Right. So moving on then, going into the Championship, of course, was Wrexham and Birmingham and Charlton. Now, this is why the the Championship for me is kind of crazy because I think that one of those has a good chance to challenge and do really well. And it's not
Birmingham.
Wrexham, it's Birmingham. Yeah, it's Birmingham.
I think Birmingham will be high, maybe just outside the playoffs. Wrexham will survive, and Charlton will go down.
I think all three will stay up. I think
Yeah.
I think Birmingham will challenge. I think Charlton will struggle but be okay. And I think Wrexham will stay up. But apart from saying that I think they'll stay up, I haven't got a clue. So I think that's a really difficult one to
I'm gonna
call.
say Wrexham to go down and Charlton to win and Birmingham in the playoffs.
Well, I mean, did you watch the League One playoff final, Sam, or not?
No, I was out somewhere. I can't remember where.
They've got again. It's a young side, and I think to be honest, I really back Nathan Jones, even though I'm not the biggest kind of I'm not the biggest kind of fan of his.
He's a very streaky manager, isn't he? I can't make my mind up if he's really good and been unlucky or not that
Don't you
good.
think that he's just taken bad
It's been
jobs?
too much too soon, I think, a lot of his jobs is my
He's
view.
very up and down. You know who he reminds me of?
Go on.
Lee Johnson.
That's
Kind of.
funny. That's what I was gonna say. A bit like Streaky Lee.
Yeah.
Um, I believe in him, although I think we were talking about it last week and we called it the Nathan Jones show, didn't we?
Yeah.
I think that is something that holds Nathan Jones down a little bit. This kind of perception that it's all about him, but these things do come from somewhere. So there is some sort of truth to it. Yeah, I don't know what it is about Birmingham. I think you can kind of look at they've got 111 points in League One, and that means like sometimes there are some absolutely terrible sides in the Championship. So I think they will do well. I really do. And then
Do
the
you think
one
they'll go? Do you think they'll go up? Yes or no?
no, but I
No.
think they'll do well. I think they'll be up there, sort of higher mid-table, but I don't think they'll go up now. What about Wrexham for you, Sam?
Wrexham will survive mid-table. Birmingham will challenge in the upper end of the table playoffs or in the promotion race, but probably won't go up. And Charlton will go down.
Don't know about that. Right, moving on to the Championship, and it's a bit of a moving on to the teams relegated from the Championship, and it's a bit of a weird one because we've got a team that gets parachute payments from the Premier League still in Luton, which is absolutely fascinating for League One level in my eyes.
Bizarre, isn't
Yeah,
it?
they're gonna have some money.
Then we've also got Cardiff, who are a big club. Plymouth, who, maybe this is the level they should have been at
And they're
anyway.
looking for a new manager
Sorry, not
already.
sorry. Yeah, so that was something that I wanted to talk about. We'll just catch on to the final relegated team. It was I know it's a bottom three, isn't it? Is it for the Championship? Yeah, Luton, Plymouth, Derby. No, Luton, Plymouth. Oh fuck, Luton, Plymouth,
Cardiff.
Cardiff. Yeah. So obviously, Miron Muslik came in sort of
Replaced Wayne
mid-season.
Rooney. Yeah.
He's done well. Look, to me, he did a good enough job to keep the job, which obviously he did. He vehemently, he stuck to his guns and said he wanted to stay. Um, the two players that have come in
Hang on,
are.
he's not. He hasn't stayed
No,
though.
I know. Just wait. He said he wants to stay completely. The two players that came in both stated in their interviews that they came in because they were convinced by Miran Muslik and the project. That's Caleb Watts on a free from Exeter and Jamie Patterson coming from Coventry. Now, since then, Muslik uh, was approached by Schalke, who, okay, yeah, they're in the Bundesliga 2, which is the Bundesliga second division, but they are one of the biggest clubs in Germany. So my argument is, who's going to turn that down?
And I thought the statement was interesting, because Muslage was missing his family, was it, or something, and then
Yeah, he didn't hold back, did he, Simon Hallett, the Plymouth owner?
yeah, because the club said,
Why? What did he say?
well, we've tried to take every step to make sure that he's comfortable.
Yeah,
Or something.
basically, he said that they like everything that he asked, they did. Like they brought his staff in, brought the players he wanted in. Like basically, just that they did everything that they possibly could have.
Right, he's quite an outspoken owner, though, isn't he?
Um, eh, Apparently so, but I hadn't heard much from him from there. Um, but yeah, I think it's again, I just like for me as somebody that really quite likes Schalke as a club and knows how big they are. I don't think you can really turn them down.
No. Although if he said he was going to stay, maybe he shouldn't have come out and said that.
Yeah, but that's the thing, isn't it? It happens. That sort of shit happens all the time, mate.
So I don't remember seeing anything that said that he was gonna. He said he was gonna specifically stay. I must have missed that.
I think he definitely did come out and say that he was committed to the project.
Right.
But in my opinion, I think that the moment that a club as big as that comes for you, you're not turning it down. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
In
no.
my eyes, anyway. I'm not.
Right. Yeah. Fair enough.
It's a bit of a difficult one.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Plymouth. In my eyes, I think Plymouth. I don't really want to make any comments on until we know who their next
Well, who
manager
knows
is.
how they're going to be now?
Similarly with Cardiff, although I do know that Cardiff are already looking at a new guy. Are
Who's
already
this?
like they're already doing interviews, but I know they haven't appointed anybody yet. But
Where's Stephen Schumacher at the minute?
Bolton.
All right. Probably not then.
Could have brought Neil Harris back. He loves moving jobs, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
I think they'll do well. Will they go up? Probably. They're a bit too big for League One, aren't they?
Who, Plymouth?
No, Cardiff.
Cardiff? Yeah, probably.
And then obviously we've got the situation where Luton are in League One, but still getting parachute payments from the Premier League.
Yeah, I think they will go. I think they will go back up. To be honest.
I have a feeling, although I don't necessarily want to say it out loud, but I'm gonna. I think that they will absolutely walk League One.
Do you think?
Yeah. But then I also think that there's probably a lot of teams that are going to look at their front two, which is Morris and Adebayo, and think, yeah, they've not had good seasons this year, but both of them scored 10 goals in the Premier League the season before.
Yeah, I think Morris is quite old, isn't he now? But Adebayo, I'd be surprised if the Championship side doesn't snap him up.
I think they're all aren't they both sort of like 27-ish?
No, Morris is much older.
What, like
Let me check.
35 or something?
No, we're not.
I'm gonna check now.
No, he is older.
Carlton Morris is 29.
Is he?
Yeah.
Not that.
Carlton Morris is 29 and scored 11 goals in the Premier League and 8 this season. And then Elijah
That's not
Adebayo
bad for that one
is
season
27.
Luton was in the Premier League.
Elijah Adebayo is 27 and
Didn't
scored
know
10 and then scored 10 goals in the Premier League.
I thought Adebayo was about 21.
No. Would he be playing at Luton if he was 21?
Maybe, I don't know.
Difficult one, that. But no, yeah, I think it kind of does depend on whether they can keep them. I think they might keep Morris because 29 is not. I don't know. You're less inclined to get a guy moving up for 29. Maybe go to a Championship team. But
Yeah.
Adebayo might move. 27 is kind of like peak, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Dropping out of League One was Bristol Rovers, Cambridge, Shrewsbury, and Crawley Town.
Way! Bye-bye to the Crawley boys. Bye-bye to the Crawley boys.
Just imagine some of the party hats and party poppers.
I will say things about 3 of these teams. Crawley and Scotland is a good match. Neil Harris and Cambridge with Mark Bonner as director of football is a good match. And Bristol Rovers obviously reappointed Darryl Clark, which I really like and think they could do well. So I think there's a good chance that there's some clubs there that could be challenging to come straight back up. If I was going to hang my hat on any of them straight away, it would probably be either Cambridge or Bristol Rovers.
Fair enough.
And how about our boys? How do you think we'll do next season?
Our boys?
No,
our boys.
As in Crew Alexander, I presume.
Yeah, no, I know. I just said our boys again.
Right, okay.
I think it's difficult because I think that we.
I don't know. It depends who we got coming through in the academy.
We need a good summer. Obviously, we've already brought in Josh March from Harrogate, which I don't mind. But he's older, and I don't like the fact that we keep going for these older strikers.
Well,
It's
surely you
not
need
really us.
a blend of youth and experience.
What's happening to Conor O'Riordan? Has he gone back to Blackburn?
He's gone back, yeah.
And Tommy Lowry's gone back to Portsmouth.
Yeah, but he was released by Portsmouth.
Or was he?
Yeah, but I don't think he'd come back to us.
Interesting.
Just quickly, because we've only got 3 more to do.
Right.
Bradford, Wimbledon, Port Vale.
Boo! Boo!
In fact, sod Port
Boo!
Vale, you're not going to want to talk about them. I think they'll stay up, though.
No, I think they'll go down. They'll finish bottom,
And Doncaster as well. I think, alright, you want to say Port Vale go down, we'll stick to that.
Yeah, I can't bear it.
I think Bradford might have a tough season.
I think Bradford will stay up.
I think Wimbledon will just about stay up.
Yeah.
And I think Donny will do alright. To be honest, that's about it. I think they'll do alright.
The Vale will fall and go down.
Yeah, but is that you just saying that because you fucking hate the Vale?
No, because they've been up and down the last few years, and I think they'll really suffer. Well, I hope they do. And who are the other teams? You said Wimbledon will just about survive. Donny will survive, and who was the other one?
Bradford.
Bradford will survive. So I think only Port Vale go out of those.
Interesting.
And
Okay.
they better go.
And how do we feel about Morecambe and Carlisle? Do you think they'll do okay in the National League?
Yeah, I think Carlisle will come straight back up. I think Morecambe will be... I'm going to make a bold prediction and say Morecambe will be relegated from the National League.
I don't think I'd go that big, but I do think they are going to really struggle. And I really worry for their future as a club, to be honest.
Yeah. Must be horrible for the fans, isn't it, when he clubs. You know, for all we have a laugh on the show, like, if anything happened to Crew, I think George would be... I don't know what we'd do.
I think no matter how bad it gets, as long as we're still in the EFL, I'm happy.
It'd be Crude, Alexander.
I think that if Crew got relegated into the non-league, I think it'd be a long time till we saw Crew again.
What would you do?
Concerns me.
What would you do to seen it with Morecambe? What would you do if Crew were liquidated? We'd be devastated.
I think my heart would be right. I don't think I'd ever watch football ever again. I think that would genuinely be it.
Yeah.
Right then, Will. On that note,
yeah, okay.
Actually, no, not on that note. Let me just. What about Oldham and
Barnet? I think Barnet
will be playoff challenges. I think
Barnet will survive, and Oldham might just go down.
Right. Okay. Fair enough.
How about you, George?
I think both survive, but I think it's going to be tough for Oldham, and I think that Barnet could challenge for the playoffs.
What makes you think that?
I've read a lot about Barnet as a team, and Dean Brennan, the manager, and had a look at the squad, and I just think that that's a squad with a lot of potential to go far.
Why? What have you heard about their
just
team?
about the way they play football, and there's a couple of sort of ex-EFL guys in there, and you know, I don't. To be honest, it's mostly on the vibes and the fact that they absolutely smashed the National League. And I'm looking at the squad and I look at it and it's got
How
guys.
many points did they win it by?
I'll have a look. We'll have a look to the old Steve McManaman. Second. They won it by 6 points in the end. But between Barnet and third place Forest Green, there was 19 points.
Wow.
And then 6 points between Barnet and second place York.
And how many points between Barnet and Oldham?
Between Barnet and Oldham, there were 29 points.
Wow.
Oh, no, yeah, 29. Do you know what's hilarious? Between Oldham and second place York, Oldham obviously getting promoted, there was 23
23
points,
points. Oh my god.
which is ridiculous.
And that's why I think the older managers said 3 should get promoted automatically. Sorry, 2 should get promoted automatically from the National League.
Yeah, but I think it's just that's the lottery, the playoffs, isn't it?
Well, he was saying that we were so far behind. Who did you say finished second?
York.
York. We were so far behind York that it's a travesty they've not gone up.
Yeah, it's that would really, really sting if I was a player.
Yeah.
Right, any more to add, or?
Yeah. So yeah, I do want to say just one
Okay.
thing. Now, we know that obviously this is the end of the football show with
me,
you.
Yep.
And I just wanted to say from both of us, thank you very much for bringing it back.
No problem. My pleasure.
Because I think I speak for us both when I say that I have truly loved doing the football show with you this time.
Thank you.
Which is something that I never thought I'd ever say.
And I thank you for
Because
your
the last
honesty.
time it was a shit show.
Yeah.
I agree.
I think it's. I
I'd
actually
like.
feel quite emotional to be saying goodbye to it.
Yeah. I'd just like to say I think it's been a really good version of the show. I think we learned a lot from last time.
Yes.
Although the first incarnation of the show was special because of lockdown and stuff, but this has been. I think we did it the first time as much to keep ourselves sane as we did to do a show and to be able to talk to each other, where this time it's really come through. I think our love of football, and I think you've made some really good innovations, Will. I think the name has been fantastic. I think your guests have been pretty good throughout the season. I know I missed a chunk when I was in Australia.
I think the analysis has been
The
top level this
analysis
time.
has been better. Jordan, the EFL guru, has been fantastic, and Ben when he's chipped in, and Robbie in the early
Of course,
weeks.
without Ben Carney, this would not be. We would not be doing this again. It's him, really. It's not me that got the ball rolling. It is Ben.
And I think, also, Will, you handing over some of the hosting has been really good for the show. Not that you're a terrible host, but you get.
Oh well,
We all know that at times you get flustered and it's hard. and we know the editing's been hard and all that, but I hope it's been worth it. It's been worth it for us, especially.
It's just been fantastic. I'm glad it's ending on a really good note. It's just been brilliant.
Yeah, with all of us together
Yes,
as well.
exactly.
That's really,
Yeah.
really good. And I'd like to take this opportunity that, you know, listeners on Spotify and watchers on the TubeMix YouTube channel. There is the potential. There's no promises, but there is a potential that out of the ashes of the football show, out of the ashes of Without Having Kicked a Ball, maybe another football show in the new season. It's not confirmed. We don't know, but it's something we're gonna look at. But I think for TubeMix, it's time he feels that to let this go, and this is his channel, this is your channel, Will, your platform, and ultimately, if that's what you want to do and have decided to do, then we will go along with it. But I'm sure you'll see us all again, or listen to us all again, unfortunately for all you guys.
Oh, of course, I'm sure there'll still be plenty of. I've got plenty of ideas for you still to, appear on the channel as well. Some non-football content, which I'm looking forward to, trying to make that work. So yeah.
The only thing that me and Gordon would like you to promise, Will, is that even though all the episodes as we record now aren't the latest ones aren't up on the channel, that you please, even if you don't edit them, that you please put them up there.
Absolutely, I will. Yes.
I think that'd be a great shame if it was not to end with the full set. And that doesn't mean they have to all be done next week or whenever. But yeah, just make sure they get out there.
Okay.
But yeah, before we get too emotional, I'll hand it back over to you, Will, and obviously you can bring us home on this
Sam.
final hurrah.
Jordan, anything that you want to say just before I bring us home?
No, other than that, I've thoroughly enjoyed every second of doing this again. And if there ever was a time, I know that you've said there isn't, but if there ever was a time where you said, let's do this again, I absolutely would do it.
Well, I'm thankful that you feel that way. It's brilliant. So,
I hope that we're changing your mind.
no.
Okay. Tosser.
Anyway, so let me ask you both, because I asked Ben this, so I want to ask you both. What's your highlight of this football season? It could be from the show, it could be from any match. What's your highlights?
You first, Sammy.
Tough one. I think Crystal Palace winning the FA Cup and having a new winner in a team that's done so well in the last few years, and watch Brentford and Brighton go beyond them, even though they've been a more established club. But now they'll have their chance in Europe. On the show, what's been my favourite thing on the show? It's difficult, isn't it? I think it's just, being able to talk about football with my mates. It's got to be my favourite thing. Doing it with the people that I hold very, very dear to me, unbelievably dear to me, and people that mean the world to me that are as close as family, in my opinion. And to be able to do that with you guys has been an absolute privilege. So, yeah.
God, it's getting a bit emotional in here, isn't it?
Over to you, Joe.
What's your
Um,
highlights?
my highlight of the season is, oh, I think, look, to see your club lift a European trophy is great. That's got to be up there. I think Forest doing so well has got to be up there.
I mean, when
I
they
think
thrashed Manchester City as well, that was pretty amazing as well.
Sunderland winning the playoff final is a great moment. And then my favorite thing about the show is just that we get to do it, and we all live busy lives, and we find a couple of hours out of a day, and we just talk about football, and for 5 minutes, you're sort of playing at your dream, being some sort of pundit analyst, aren't you? And I think it really is a crying shame that we have to say goodbye.
Although, like Sam
Yeah,
said, the show might be continuing on with you guys, so.
we'll see. I
And
guess
listen, I
we'll see.
mean,
We'll
you
see
seem
how
to live and breathe football.
we'll see how we can make it work.
I have no
We'll
doubt
see.
that with a bit of help, you guys would absolutely make it work. I have absolutely no doubt.
But if we do that, well, don't be offended if you don't get your invite to be
Oh,
a pundit
of
on
course,
the.
mate.
You might not be first on the list.
Yes. Okay, so my highlights are going to be. Well, actually, I think Arsenal thrashing Real Madrid in the Champions League was pretty amazing to read. Because honestly, I thought Real Madrid might, end up winning the Champions League as they often had. And to just see the smiles off the Real Madrid faces, to read about that was just pretty extraordinary. So that's my footballing highlight of the show. There's been so many. The time when I, made a mistake about, talking about the wrong game. Yeah, that was funny. And I bet you get excited when a player's called Jordan.
Yeah, it's a good one.
No, I bet you love it when a player called
Yeah,
John
that's
scores.
it. Yeah. So so many. But right, I will take us home and steer the ship home.
Here we go.
Brace
This is it.
yourselves. Yep. Thank you to Sam Taylor and Jello Wheels as ever. Thank you, lads. It's been a pleasure and a privilege.
As always.
Likewise.
Yeah, absolutely. And also thanks to Ben Carney, and also thanks to Robbie Broomhall, who was here for a little bit for the start. So thank you, Robbie, because your contributions when you were here were absolutely fantastic. And so, if you want to, feel free to like, share, comment, and subscribe to the TubeMix YouTube channel. I will see you for. There's plenty of videos in the pipeline now that this series of Doctor Who is finished. I'm going to be doing a big overall review of that as well. So, and lots of other exciting plans and ideas. So, stay tuned. And in the words of Shooter Gatwa's Doctor Who bowed out, it's been an absolute joy. That is the word. It's been an absolute joy. So thanks very much for watching. I won't see you. Maybe these guys will. And if the show comes back, one thing is for certain. They'll be doing it without having kicked a ball. Goodbye.